Now we can do another logic game from the LSAT. We're going to use test number 56 that was administered in December 2008 and is available from the lsac.org. We're going to do the section 1, the third game, questions 12 to 16, and we're going to the park because this town has two public parks, Greystone and Landing. And they're to be planted with North American trees. There are exactly 4 varieties of trees available. There are maples, there's oaks, there's sycamores, and there's tamaracks. Each of the parks is planted with exactly 3 varieties of trees. At least one of the parks is planted with both maples and sycamores. So we have at least one of these with maples and sycamores, but we might have another one. Any park that is planted with oaks will also be planted with tamaracks. So if we have O, we must have T, but if we have T, we don't necessarily have to have O. That would be the reciprocity trap. Greystone Park is planted with maples. Now, they're tempting us to think that there has to be sycamores, but they said at least, and that would be another trap that we don't want to fall into. So we're going to let the nerds teach us about the game as we go through the answers to the first question. We check out our conditions against the answers and find out which one of them the nerds will let us use. At least one of the parks is planted with both maples and sycamores. Answer A works out like that, but look at answer B. Maples, oaks, and tamaracks. Maples, oaks, and tamaracks. That won't work. And then we have maples and sycamores in C, D, and E. Any park that is planted with oaks will also be planted with tamaracks. And look at answer A. Oaks and sycamores. Oaks and sycamores. They violated that rule 2 different times. Answer C. We have oaks and sycamores in Landing Park, so that violated the rule as well. D and E are both possible. And then Greystone Park is planted with maples, but if we look at E, it's no maples in Greystone, so that won't work. So our answer is D. The nerds told us that we could have maples, sycamores, and tamaracks, and then we could have maples, oaks, and tamaracks, and the nerds are nice people. They gave us a solution. Now, which of the following must be true? It looks like pretty vague rules, but they said it must be true, and they've already given us a situation, so it had to happen at least here. Let's check our answers. Greystone Park is planted with sycamores. Well, it did happen, but we could switch these 2 tops and we'd still have an M and S, and that would be consistent with the rules, and it wouldn't have to be true in answer A. Answer B. Landing Park is planted with maples. Well, it was here, but we could cross this out and we could make this sycamore, oaks, and tamaracks, and that would still be possible. C. Landing Park is planted with tamaracks. Well, it was. Now let's try to get rid of it. Well, if we get rid of it, then we've got to get rid of oaks as well. And then we can only put in sycamores here, and we'd only have 2, and we need 3. So we've learned something about the game. That we must have tamaracks in each of our parks, because if we don't, we're going to run out of space, run out of trees. When they say what must be true, look at the end of the arrow. This T is getting pushed around. It must be in the park. So now we know about 3 of our 6 situations, and the nerds are teaching us things about the game as we go along. Question 14. If both parks are planted with sycamores, well, now we're in a situation where this is sycamore, sycamore, and then this thing here doesn't have to be true. And we read the question, which says, which of the following could be true? Well, this is the only part of the sketch that's still empty. It's the only could-be part of the question and answer that we can find. In answer A, the number of parks planted with maples is equal to the number of parks planted with oaks. That could be an O. You could have one M, one L, O, and our answer is A. We don't have to tell nobody about the other 4 wrong answers. Question 15, which of the following must be false? Answer A, both parks are planted with oaks. Well, think about it. If we put O here and O here, we'd have T and T, and we wouldn't have any place for our M and S. And so we've discovered something as well about those O and T's again. Answer A, must be false. We don't have to tell nobody about the other 4 things. It could be true. Question 16, which of the following could be true? Now notice what happens to the answers and what we've learned about the game. The number of parks planted with oaks is equal to the number of parks planted with tamaracks. We've just discovered that can't be true on answer A in the next question, and the nerds are rewarding us for remembering something we learned about 30 seconds ago. Then B, the number of parks planted with oaks is greater than the number of parks planted with sycamores, and that's the same problem as A. They're equivalent answers. They can't both be right. They both must be wrong. C, exactly one of the parks is planted with tamaracks. We've discovered both of them have to be. And D says neither of the parks is planted with tamaracks, and that's twice as wrong as C. So our answer is E. Both parks contain exactly the same varieties of trees as each other. This could have been an M, couldn't it? And it's another could be. And we could have MST, MST. And they sort of told us that in the beginning of the game, didn't they? When they said at least one of the parks has M and S. So you could have both parks with M and S, and that's really all the question was asking you. And you could have jumped down to E because all of those must be O and T's were in A, B, C, and D. And E was our could be answer. Testing for the public. Nonprofit since 1985. Nobody makes things easier.